And I hope that their first child be a masculine child.
Have I told you my theory about how Scar was actually a very engaged local leader in the Elephant Graveyard / Pride Lands?
You have not, but I would like to hear it.
So his whole song is called Be Prepared. And I, spent a lot of time in the Boy Scouts, and that's the Boy Scout motto. It's really a song about organizing the youth and helping them get engaged in civics and to be prepared to carry out the imperial project, much like the British Boy Scouts that Baden-Powell wanted to carry out his, the empire's imperial projects in Africa. And this also is in Africa. In many ways, Scar could be Baden-Powell. That gets us sued by both the British Boy Scouts and Disney. But yeah, he was just an engaged local leader singing a song about the Boy Scouts, and his troop was sitting there marching and singing with them. He's just a Boy Scout troop leader. That's all.
It does have the wonderful voice of Jeremy Irons, which automatically gives him points in my book. But it's funny you mentioned Baden-Powell because I picked up, my wife wanted to go to this antique stores. I picked up one, so it's from 1900, so shortly after the South African War. Or when that was concluding, or the Second Boer War. And it's called Celebrities of the British Army. And so it's got a page profile of people and then their colored portrait.
How many war crimes?
Oh, a lot, but they had fantastic uniforms, right? So it's kind of a good.
Exactly how many genocides are we talking about?
I love it. But no, the uniforms, not the genocide. But
there's probably some slurs in there that people are just forgot existed.
Well, we can, one time we can have an episode where we explore defensiveness of Erik's vintage book collection.
It goes along with your equine pornography that you hang on the wall.
Well, there's cavalry officers in here, so it is similar. That's another episode. Did we mention that last time? My fondness for equestrian imagery in general?
Yes. There's, and we can maybe include the new equestrian imagery that entered the national political debate lately. I heard there's a horse named Bubba somewhere. Anyways, this is episode 2 of Annoyed Masculinity. And it's a podcast where me and my friend Erik, I'm Jack, we've known each other for the better part of 20 years. And through that, on and off, talked through various means and ways, as one does, Facebook Messenger, sometimes in texting, yada, yada, yada. LinkedIn was in there. And just through all that, we remain connected.
And we're of a certain age when we did really reconnect through LinkedIn. Social media of choice for
it really keyholes us into a certain kind of white guy.
But continue, so I'll point that out.
But yeah, so... And that was after I was unceremoniously canned via email by a large automotive manufacturer whose vehicles I will never buy again for many reasons, mostly because they fired me, but also because they spy on you and send your data to insurance companies and they got sued for it. You can figure out who they are from that.
They may have good prices. That's how I got a great warranty on a Volkswagen several years ago. But scandals out.
I did not work for Volkswagen. But this is where we talk to each other about what annoys us about the current state of the narrative around what it is to be a man in 2025, masculinity, what it is to be masculine, and how we think there are better ideas around. And we do this because, me personally, I don't like the idea of a world where that is defined by sex criminals, weird dorks, tryhards, and grifting hustle bros. And the biggest thing we want anyone who's listening to take away from this is that there are other opinions out there. If you need help or guidance or trying to figure out what's going on with you and how you look at the world, and you don't have any good male role models in your life, or you're not sure where to find them, we can be a helpful hand. Though I would say no one should ever listen to anything I say and do it just because I said it, because I will never tell you no. I will only tell you to consider the consequences. And if you're willing to deal with them, go do what you want.
And we will have proper role models as guests in future, but, we're not saying that. I don't know that either of us should be, but
I would never say I'm that guy. Other people might suggest it, but the people we have as guests are probably much better role models than us. They will tell you no. I will just say, yeah, do what you want, man. But yeah, today, Erik, would you like to lead us off with telling you today the topic is what annoys you about how you express masculinity?
no, actually, I'm going to punt. So just for listeners to know, Jack is the more organized one here of all of this. So actually, Jack, why don't you do the intro in here? I've got my section, but start us off.
Okay. I forgot we were doing that. Did we talk about that earlier?
I don't know. I don't. Probably
yeah.
not.
So
you may
for
have.
me, so, and this is one of those things where like I actually had trouble. I was like, I came up with this question and I forgot that I came up with this question, and then I said, who the fuck wrote this down? This is a hard question to ask because I sit there and argue with myself about, okay, is this I'm doing this because it is a thing I learned about this is how you be man, or is it a thing that I am attributing to masculinity but it's something else? So I kept on going around that circle about a lot of stuff. But the thing that most recently is that whenever we have a problem or a like, oh shit, we want to do this thing, but we don't know how to, or we can't for whatever reason. I feel like I have to I'm the one who ends up having to solve all the problems. And I don't know if that's rooted in masculinity. I think it's just rooted in like me knowing me and knowing my wife and like, well, we both contribute equally to just about everything, or we try to. We are not a gendered rolled house. We just split things up based on who doesn't mind doing them. And I don't mind figuring a lot of stuff out. Like in my day job, when I'm doing my big kid work, I'm a program manager. Like I plan shit all day. That's what I do. And so it ends up, I just kind of naturally gravitated towards it, but then it becomes a thing where if it's like, oh, this is a thing that Sam really wants, and I don't know how, or think we can't do it, I have to tell her no, and I hate telling my wife we can't do something, because it's like, that's probably where it comes into like, not necessarily a toxic masculinity, but just the masculinity in general, where like, I don't think I'm the sole provider for anything, but I like taking care of her and making sure she can do the things she wants to do. But when something's like kind of expensive, or the thing we've been talking about recently is, do we want to have another kid? It's like, we both like to have another kid. It works out money wise, but it's like the way the entire economy seems to be rooted in all economic growth in 2025 has been around data centers for AI.
Yeah.
And that bubble looks like it's getting ready to pop. It's like, my real work is involved entirely in, if you spend money, we get a piece of that. So it's like, if the economy goes to shit, will I have a job? Do I really want to have a newborn and no job? If it's so bad that I can't find more work and then we have to like move in with family, doing that with a 2-year-old would be difficult. So I end up like, shit, I feel like, there is this mountain of problems to solve, and I don't know how to necessarily solve them in a way that makes everyone happy. But I feel like it's my job to. And so that has been annoying the shit out of me lately.
Newborns are expensive. That's why instead of a newborn, I have a sports car, which I can at least legally sell the car. But
yeah, like having done it once, kids are expensive and tiring, and I'm willing to do it again because my daughter's fantastic and I wouldn't mind having another one. But it's just like the uncertainty of the future and being able to provide in the immediate term, just because for some reason we made a series of very poor decisions as a country and put the worst people in charge. And so it's like, I have trouble saying yes to that.
Well, you do have a fantastic one already, so it is always a roll of the dice,
Yeah. My kid is pretty awesome. She's fantastic, and I have no reason to think that our second kid wouldn't be just as awesome. It's more of I have to do all these things, and it's like, no, dumbass, it's not you. You're part of a team. You and your wife do everything together, and you have since you got married, before you got married. And thinking of this way, like the reason it annoys me is because when I get into that, I have to solve all these problems. It makes me make bad decisions, and it's hard to do. But I have to sit back and take a second and remind myself that, you know, my wife's here. I'm not the only one. She helps solve problems too. You're not the sole providing breadwinner here, and you never have been. We've always done everything together as a team, as equally as possible. I can't let my being overwhelmed bypass any type of like rational decision making. And also, like, you don't have to solve all these problems at once. You can prioritize them to solve them in their time. And that's what we did. That's what we decided to do. We're going to wait 6 months to see how things look, and if things just kind of seem better, make a decision then. And the reason this is like we have to like time it and everything is that my wife can't conceive very easily without IVF.
We've been in similar situations.
When we did IVF, we have like 20 embryos basically in a freezer somewhere in Georgia. And so we've got plenty in the drawer. It's just a matter of, well, we're never going to use all those. And
you've got a full rugby team for me that I'm happy to coach as children, I do. But yeah.
You can tell Val, like, Jack's got a freezer full of kids. But no, so it's one of those things where like it does take a little bit of planning and coordination and looking at calendars and all that, because when you do IVF, there's all kinds of other stuff. It's not like you go in, they stick the turkey baster in. It's like, no, there's like, depending on what your hormone levels are and everything, it can be like months of shots that you have to do before, and then like a month or two after they implant the embryo. And we got lucky the first time, worked like a charm. Not necessarily guaranteed to do that every time. And so there's also a little bit of hesitancy, like, well, shit, this doesn't work. What's it going to do as far as like, how depressed is my wife going to be? And then I'm going to have to solve that problem. It's like, no, man, that's not, your job is to support, but not to solve that problem. That's her problem that she has to work on. So it's always around like, I have to be the one that solves all of our problems. And it totally isn't the case. But I assume and act like it is.
Sometimes, I think because things are similar with me, be that at home or sometimes at work and stuff where you're like, but I wonder, there's times where I wonder, okay, is this masculinity or, a male drive or feel the need to do something, or is it ADHD, right? When it comes to problem solving, because I've always been good at it. Didn't know I had ADHD until fairly recently, but a lot made sense. And I think it's kind of separating okay, did somebody really ask me to help solve this problem because they know I'm good at problem solving? And, ADHD, various other neurodiversity, like on the spectrum, it's like see patterns. If you're a pattern seeker, like we do tend to be very good problem solvers. But I think it's now, if you weren't asked to do so, there's oftentimes like my wife's trying to figure something out, she'll come down, she'll ask me. But if there's cases where I see something and, I know it's not necessarily asked for, I try to be better about, but I think it's kind of separating the ability from the unsolicited drive, right, to solve problems.
When I worked at said former automotive manufacturer, one of my best friends, she still works there, I was having a bad day, and she's like, do you want advice or do you want someone to listen? I was like, what do you mean? And she explained a lot of times she will accidentally do what you just described. And so she's learned over time to ask people, hey, do you want help solving this? Do you want someone to listen? What do you need? So I'm just like, well, I'm stealing that from you.
I've been told as a man, and that's advice for men that I've heard a lot before. Am I still working on that? Yes, but But I think that's it's good to hear that. Yeah, a woman's like that too, because that's traditionally you always hear that as advice given to men.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that like, is this a gender thing or do we just think it's a gender thing? Or maybe it's just people being people.
Or is it neurodiversity? Yes.
Without diving too into any gender theory here, I'll have to go get my bell hooks off the shelf. But actually, I don't know. I just recently heard of bell hooks when I was trying to figure out what the performative male is.
What is a bell hook?
About this? Oh, this is Bell Hooks is an author that I've never heard of.
Oh, bell hooks. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and a performative male is I'm still trying to figure out if it's good or bad. It's funny to me, because it's a guy who basically is a poser trying to get leftish or left wing or not conservative women to be interested in him and think he's
Oh, I know
safe to
exactly
date
the type. Yep.
because he has fluffy hair, has a big bag, has something called a labubu, and for some reason matcha. Like every single person doing the performative male thing has a matcha, and it's like I've been drinking matcha since like 2010. You can't take this from me. You will pry it from my cold, dead hands. I am not surrendering green tea to anyone who's annoyed at somebody else. Much like everything else, I'm not going to surrender anything I do just because some dork on the internet says it's bad. Like, well, you don't cook my food or sign my checks or write my performance reviews or sleep in my bed, so your opinion's irrelevant.
There's a lot of talk around those guys, like back during, so the first Women's March, I went with friends when I was living in Munich. And, after
Was
that.
was this the pink pussy hats?
The pussy hats.
March?
Yeah. Yeah.
I still want one of those.
So they didn't really make it to Germany by the time that, we went, but
I just like knit hats.
Yeah, but that was like the stereotype for a while, was like these guys that would, get the pussy hat and stuff and, think that entitled them to female attention. And honestly, there were some guys at the one that I was at where I hadn't heard about this concept yet, and I just learned the author's name, or I heard it's called performative male, but there were ones that fit the bill, be it at other protests or, ones that will go to Pride, right? Like I love going to Pride, but there's the ones that, want to make sure they tell everybody about their time there. What's the motivation, or hell, even at indie concerts, like
it's one of those things where I'm like, especially like before I came out, it's one of those things where like I see some of me in there, but I don't think I was obnoxious about it. It's a lot of like, you were performing a lot of aspects of me in this whole thing. And I honestly wonder how much of it's wrapped up also in people being afraid of being cringe, which
that should be a whole other episode, because I've learned a lot about
it's part of a later
lately.
part of this episode.
Oh, yeah. Well,
but I honestly wonder how much of it, because, and this is the thing, there's this weird divide among young, I don't know how much splits into Gen Alpha, but I know like older Gen Z versus younger Gen Z. Like basically, if you were able to start your life before or after COVID, the ones who started, whether they were 18 and moving out on their own to do whatever, or they were graduated from college, so they're a little bit older in their 20s. But basically, when you became independent of anyone else and you're doing your thing, did you get socialized to being an adult in a bedroom watching YouTube and listening to podcasts, or were you able to like go out and do shit? And the older ones are more like me and probably like you, where it's like, no, I'm just doing my thing, man. I don't know. I'm sorry you don't like it, but I'm just doing me. And the younger ones are very obsessed with like what the internet thinks of them, and which to a degree I can get. If you're like a teenager, that makes sense. But not if you're in your 20s. And if you're concerned about being cringe in your 20s, it's like I'm sorry you were so emotionally and like developmentally stunted. There's a reason why, but we need to move past this. And I wonder how much of this is people seeing someone who, for whatever reason, is dressed in a certain way, doing certain things, because they either enjoy it or maybe because they think it's going to get them the kind of attention they want. And I personally don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
I'm a peacock. I like attention. Everybody likes attention,
Well, yeah. And so part of it's like, I don't know why we're saying this is a bad thing. Like a guy is reading a book that he might never read, might not read. He is dressing in what look like comfortable clothes. Maybe he actually likes them. And he's doing things that are different from what normal guys do. What's wrong with this? So let's say he's doing it solely because he wants to get laid. How much stupid shit did you do to get laid when you were in your 20s, Eric?
Well, I also, I was always an extremely preppy looking guy, but I still had my, concert attire, let's say, to try and fit in my,
like, that's just like a thing that dudes do. it is very normal 20-year-old behavior to me.
I
Like,
think
you're doing something weird and out of character because you want to sleep with a girl. Maybe you like that girl. Maybe for whatever reason you want to have some type of attention and affection from this woman. If you happen to pick up some good habits along the way and learn some things in this book you wouldn't have ordinarily read, what's the problem with that? I don't see it.
Sure.
I don't see the problem with it. Apparently, some people on the internet are upset about performative men. I think it's just people whining to whine.
Yeah. Sorry. And there's also like a lack of nuance these days.
Oh yeah, scope and scale do not exist.
Yeah. But it gets into like what they say about road rage and stuff, right? Where it's like you want to be judged by your intentions, but you judge everybody else by their actions, right? And
I cannot make comments about road rage because I have it very badly.
Oh, so do I. But that's what the thing is. It's like, but if I accidentally like cut somebody off or whatever, it's kind of like, oh yeah, Midwest wave, like, oops. They'd be extremely
if
mad.
I accidentally cut somebody off, I feel terrible about it. But that motherfucker had it coming.
Yeah. But if they wave, then I'm not as mad. Like, at least give me the Midwest wave. But point is, like, look, I'm sure people saw, us at various events, or I'll go back to me at the Women's March in Munich. I was there with girlfriends and trying to be supportive. I agreed with, everything they were doing. I know the term these days, ally, can be a bit loaded depending on how people use it. But let's say I was trying to be supportive, right? But people may have looked at me and thought those things. And so while, yes, I'm sure there were people there whose motives were not as best as not what we could say they should be, or the purest of motivations, right? Like, how am I going to know just by looking at them? But I do know the type that you're talking about. Like, they do exist, but we shouldn't try to, call them out without.
The fun thing is that it's become like, now there are contests to who can, like, you come to the park when 500 other people are dressed up in their best performative male outfit and you all try to outdo each other and there's like a winner declared, which I find to be absolutely hilarious. Then I saw one for lesbians, or like basically the same thing, but lesbians trying to out lesbian each other. And it was fantastic. So it's one of those things like, I enjoy the good hard, the fun poking of it. But when people start to speak in a very negative tone about it, it's just like, just let people do their thing, The amount of dumb shit that I did to get attention, affection, whatever, as a younger person, this may be a sexist thing to say. It's kind of a thing that guys do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I see women doing this at all. It may be because of how we are socialized in America to behave, but this is like exclusively in the realm of dumb shit young men do.
Well, honestly, I think you can even take it back into evolutionary biology, honestly, because I think this goes beyond just socialization.
Oh yeah. Also, like, testosterone is like
Hell of a drug.
what it does, what people think testosterone does, and what it actually does are wildly different. Like, the people who are selling you tea so you can go lift better or whatever, I don't know, maybe it does that. They don't know necessarily, at least based on what they say about it, what testosterone actually does to your personality, to your decision-making process. It makes you incredibly risk-averse. There's a study done. I have to find it. If I can find the link.
High testosterone makes you risk-averse, not more willing to take risks.
No.
Yeah, more.
It makes you more risk-tolerant.
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay.
Thank you for calling me out.
No problem. I was like, I don't think that's right, but yeah.
I'll have to find the study for it, but it was this thing where like they had these macaques or rhesus monkeys or something, the monkeys that they kill in labs. So they gave them all a bunch of testosterone. So like these monkeys in a lab setting will always form to a hierarchy, right? So you have like monkeys A through F. And so like A and B didn't get any, and they gave C, D, E, and F testosterone injections. And the general thought among like bro logic is that, it'll completely upset the hierarchy. It didn't. A and B still remained in charge. C was still differential to A and B, but became a holy fucking terror to D, E, and F. And we just abused the shit out of them to maintain their place in the hierarchy. In humans, it makes you way more risk tolerant. It makes you do like weird random shit. So when I was a teenager, because I just wanted to see what would happen. I jumped off the back of a moving pickup truck and tried to start running as I hit the ground, and then proceeded to skid across 10 feet of pavement, and my entire arm was a scab. Just dumb shit like that. And it's like, no, this is just boys doing boy shit.
Well, there's a saying in like Gestalt psychology and practice that, there's no such thing as a mistake. There's only experiments. And so you experimented and thought, my hypothesis is that I can jump out of this and keep running. But the hypothesis was disproved.
And I wasn't exactly wrong. I just can't run at like 20 miles an hour.
Well.
What I should have done is have them drive 10 miles per hour forward and me jump the other direction off the back so I just land.
But really, are you really a Hoosier teenager? Are you from Indiana if you've never done something stupid out of the back of a pickup truck? Like, that is just kind of a rite of passage.
Yeah, it's just a thing in Indiana.
Yeah.
I have talked for many minutes, Eric. Do you want to share what annoys you about how you express your masculinity?
I think if we circle back about testosterone and getting back to your IVF real quick, is because I think this is something, and again, for another episode to dive deeper into, but the amount of, testosterone use and trend and all of that and younger men, especially in the consequences of it's something that I've looked into. I'll admit I did a test because I've just been exhausted beyond, kind of an exhausting life, especially professionally. And, now I'm going through the parental health issues. It just something wasn't right. Right. And also just my mood, my attitude. I've been like real bitchy. Right. Like, and that's difficult to be around. So I got tested and, I wasn't totally in the red, but it was low. And, usually you do at least another follow-up to see if it's consistent. It fluctuates. But it does affect fertility, right? So are we going to have a kid or not? And it came down to me. I was like, well, all right, like, I love you, but I think we have two options here. It's like, do you really want doing a kid? We're an aunt and uncle. That's pretty a nice setup. Like doing a kid, and I don't do testosterone, and I'm like this, or I do testosterone and I win D4 rugby glory by physically dominating 20-something men. Like, this seems to be for me. This is like a real 50-50 here. And she's like, well, you're an idiot. But I do also worry about the consequences because it's like, okay, I'm too moody and I'm difficult to be around. And this is actually a lead in, which I'm going to get to. But, on it, like, that's going to affect mood and behavior too. And really what annoys me is the fact that everything comes out as anger, right? Like, so I'm a naturally sensitive person. I've got my poetry book and stuff next to the desk. I like to write. I haven't in a while, which I regret, but, growing up, like, we're in the 80s and early 90s, there was a lot of pressure to, there was a lot of boys don't cry, be a man. Then I was put into, when I was in elementary school, right, I was in the gifted classes because I think this is also before they were really diagnosing, things like the spectrum back then.
Now all those kids just have IEPs.
Yeah, and then when he doesn't live up to like all these expectations later and doesn't feel gifted, we'll see.
Like, no, we thought you were really smart. You're not smart. You're just autistic. It's okay.
Yeah, or it's like you're smart, but it's your whole application of this. And in fifth grade, I went into a regular kids class, and they're still sharp, and none of that was a good school system, but I was able to get away with being more kind of sensitive and, artsy. You're talking about my nerdy interests and stuff in these other groups. And then I came in, and so I remember they're like, tell us about yourself. And I was like, oh, I love history and classical music. And, I play the piano, and I played sports too. But like that got me off on the wrong foot. And so I got bullied that year, and that's when I started building up the mask. That like men in particular, there's all kind of think back to when we started constructing, this alternate personality, right? And so I grew up just thinking that sensitivity was like something to hide or push down. Um, and so the only place it had to go was towards anger or frustration. Um, because and to this day, it's like most of my emotions come out as mad, right? Even if I'm not actually angry, the truth is that traditionally that's the one feeling men are allowed to show without being shamed, right? Bill Burr had a recent thing. I know you're like, I was like, yeah, should it be that way? No. Is it starting to change? It's like, yes, but it was like Bill Burr's recent routine on, men are allowed to be like one of two things, like fine or mad, right? So either like, I'm fine, or yeah, fuck that. I just, pissed off about something. Even if you're scared or sad. And then he goes on to point out that's why you never hear about women dropping dead, like only men. So yeah, a guy just fell right out of his golf cart, dropped dead. Like that's a man that's never cried. But that's the impression that I've always had, and I can be emotionally literate, and now I'll get into having to work on that, and reclaim that, I should say, or regenerate that. But I still default to like fight mode, even if it's in personal settings where I don't want that, but the worst part of it is that frequently it's like that angry, like exterior does get rewarded, right?
It can.
It can, yeah.
Dude, I put on my angry eyes when I go to Costco. Nobody gets in the way. If my wife pushes the cart, we are constantly in line behind people. If I push the cart, people move. They do not want to be in the way of that cart. Because I just scowl the whole time, and I'm 6'1".
Yeah, you're a bit more
large person,
physically intimidating. So, I mean, nobody can really see me right now, but
I don't know that I'm just sitting there singing songs from Lion King in my head because I've been watching it over and over again for the past month because that's what my daughter wants to watch.
I'll admit that I went a while ago. This was in the past year, but without my wife, and I thought I could do it. But when it was so packed, and I'm a guy that had like one of the few panic attacks I've had in my life was in an IKEA. So I don't like these.
Well, that place is a prison.
Well, yeah, and they keep making you move in one direction, right? Like you can't just leave. And then there's all the people. But Costco, like I got totally overwhelmed. I literally just had to like leave the cart, and I just like left. And I was like, babe, I'm really, really sorry, but I just couldn't do it. Like I just had to leave Costco. So admit that.
With and without Sam with me. Yeah.
So I didn't go into fight necessarily there, but I went to run away, right? So it's fight or flight, and I fled. Normally I have a fight response, but I fled Costco in shame. But, that's the thing, right? Like if you have that angry exterior, it's like people back off. Or problems get solved faster. Conflict gets settled. Now, does those problems get solved properly? Maybe
I would say that conflict does not get settled and that it only gets postponed.
Well, that's what I was getting into. Okay. It's like, is it settled? Like, no, it gets pushed off. Or is a decision made? Like, you think a problem's solved. That a solution is agreed upon to a problem, but that's not necessarily a true solution, right? Maybe it's not the way to solve it. It may
not be a good one either.
Yeah, no, and that's the whole point. Like, and I think that's even problem solving. Something you're saying earlier, now I just remembered what I was going to say, is like, I think there are certain things that are generally apply to certain genders more than others, or to biological sexes, but decisiveness, I think, is a more traditionally male character, but
it is associated with masculinity.
It is associated with masculinity, but it's also it's also a double-edged sword, right? So I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm like, okay, maybe we are inclined to make decisions faster and find that socialization. I do think there's a biological component to that, like, but it doesn't mean it's a good decision, right? It's just, hey, all right, fine, we got to make a call, like, whereas my wife, for example, would want to find the best, take her time and make the most educated decision. Sometimes I'm like, I don't want to keep doing this. Fuck it. Like, here, decision made. And if it's a good one, then great. You're like, oh, he's a decisive leader, knows this. But if it's a bad one, like, it causes more problems down the road. But that's like at work, though, it is like you would think that a lot of this has died off, but it hasn't. There are still boys clubs. I've worked in industries that are actually like traditionally more female. But even within those, like, there's still a lot of the executives are still men. A lot of the people, they get conferences, the bar afterwards leading these companies are men, like, and they're being tough or getting mad, like, will settle things. And there is still a certain amount of like respect in that. Now, is that healthy? No. Has it like really eaten away at me? Yes. And why I've left certain situations. So this is why I have to start my own companies, like, because I reflect, the environment around me too much. But this is why I say, like, I hate it, versus just annoyed by it, because, the people closest to me, like, end up absorbing the reaction the most, right? Even though they're not the cause. My wife works from home as well. So there'll be times that, she wants to come down and show me a video she found that she knows I'd like and all this. And then all of a sudden she hears like, oh, God damn it, son of a bitch. Like, I'm gonna shove this down his fucking throat. Bam, bam, bam. Eric's like flinging stuff around his office. And it's like, nope, not going down there. Or, if I'm in that mood, like if I'm yelling about something, like, I'll always be like, well, I'm not yelling at you. I was just like yelling like around you. But right. But the way people experience that is
I used to, for a long, and I mean up until like a year ago, I used to, because it was very much like, I don't want to bottle this up. I need to express being mad. But the way I express being mad and the way like many other people express being mad are like an order of magnitude and difference in terms of how much violence is involved. And I always would make sure that I'm not mad at my wife. I don't point any of it at her. But we were talking once, she mentioned that she doesn't like to make me mad because she knows how I react. I was like, I never react like this to you. Like, I got a little angry. I got a little frustrated about it because, like, wait a second, I purposely never aim this at you. She's like, no, but I see what you do, and it's still kind of frightening. It's like, oh, well, fuck. I hadn't considered that. Because it's like, I'm not mad at you. I'm not aiming at you. I'm not directing at you. I've made it very clear that you are not what I'm mad at. So you should be fine. And it's like, I'm still next to you, dude. And it's still not pleasant. And one thing I have to be very careful about is with my daughter, because like one time, oh, what did I do? I dropped something, or something fell off a shelf and hit me in the head. And I started a blue streak cussing, and she got remarkably terrified. She was like 20 feet away on the other side of the room. And it's like, oh, no, kid, you're fine. I'm not mad at you. Dad is fine. You're fine. We're all fine. And it reminded me, I was like, oh, yeah, shit. Just because you're mad and you're not pointing at somebody doesn't mean they can't see it and don't react to it and don't see that side of you. So, yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
Well, it affects you. I mean, and then it's also just sitting back to reflect, right? Because my dad, like, who I love, and to be clear, never hit me, right? He was the type that would, like, crack the belt, but never, like, use it,
Yeah.
But of course, parents, like, I think of our generation, like these boomer parents, were, for me at least, it's like they had gotten hit by parents or by nuns, and all that growing up. So, like, they didn't want to inflict that on their children, but then they just kind of went more psychological, which, may have fucked me up.
We had very different parents.
Well, I was going to say that's what
mine were perfectly fine with corporal punishment.
But yeah, well, mine just like psychologically fucked with me. So maybe sometimes I'm like, I wish you just would have hit me.
Both, honestly, both. I was just telling my mother-in-law about this. When I was like 9 or 10, my mom wanted me to take swim lessons. Now, I knew how to swim, but like she wanted me to like try to be on the swim team. And I like locked myself in the bathroom crying because I didn't want to go to swim lessons. And then she told everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
well, that's
my teachers, my babysitter, my babysitter's kids who were just a few years older than me. And so then I got bullied by everyone because my mom told him that I was too scared to go to swim lessons and lock myself in the bathroom crying.
Well, last time I cried, that I remember was in 5th grade. Even people have died or publicly, and my mom, who was always very well intentioned, but it told me stop crying because there's other boys around, so you're embarrassing yourself, right? And so it's those early shame situations that I think come up much later. And so my dad would when he'd get mad though would yell, and not really necessarily at us, but it's like, oh, dad's mad. Everybody like that settles it, right? And that's stuck with me. But alternatively, like my wife, like her mom was the one that was, and wife through kind of an abusive relationship with her, a rougher one. But her dad was always very quiet. So like she grew up in a totally different environment. And so, if I'm yelling, I think it's also stepping back and being aware of what that experience is like for, your partner, especially if you're married to a woman. And because like I went way too far in life without really having it pointed out the difference in concerns about a first date, right? Between the sexes. Like as a guy, I'd be like, oh, what worst case scenario, it's weird, we don't get along. Okay, fine. Whereas for women, they could get murdered, right? So the scale here is
I still don't even like I was like, what's he talking about? I'm aware of this. I just never think about it because it's never like I don't know any women who are taller than me. Yeah, I don't know anyone bigger than me that is a woman.
And that's something that
it's
they've had
not a thing that I ever considered. It's like, worst case, just doesn't work out.
Yeah, I know. See, we just don't think about it. And until, it's funny that I really thought, I was like, oh, I mean, shit. Or at night, like, every now and then, or hey, if I'm in Europe, I have my rule of like, if I see a whole group of British dudes and it's after 10 p.m., like I'm going to avoid them because there's probably going to be an altercation. But, women walking alone at night, especially in bar areas, drunk guys, like they always have to be very aware of their surroundings. Whereas somebody like you, tall, big, like you never have to think about that. I even never really think about the threat of violence. But
the problem with being the biggest guy in the bar is that somebody is going to
we'll try you. And that's that's a separate dynamic. But I mean, kind of walking alone, right? Like
sure. There's a fear that they have that I am the thing that people are afraid of in the dark alley. If we are both in a dark alley.
Yeah.
So I'm aware of it in that situation because I'm also like wary of like somebody could like jump out and stab me. My size is not, everyone is weak to gun.
Well, but that's our fear.
Like in those situations, I'm like also wary. And if I see another person, like I do not want to be the threatening person here. I'm going to come over here and pretend to mind my business. And hopefully they do not find me threatening and want to like start something. So,
but that's the thing though, is like, we're afraid of a man who might have a weapon, right? And mainly a gun. You're like, if it's a knife, like, maybe I got a chance. But
oh no, you're going to get stabbed. It's going to suck.
It's going to suck. But in your mind, you're like, it's like how every guy thinks, like, could I fight a black bear? Yeah, probably. But could I? Like, no.
This is the difference between and I mean this in no disrespectful way. This is the difference between people who actually like had to maybe shoot some people before the day was over and people who haven't. Because it's like, I don't want to get stabbed either, man. And that might happen today.
Yeah. But these are the conversations that dudes have. Whereas like, if you're a woman, any man could potentially kill you, right? Even like without a weapon. Yeah. And I mean, and that's, or at least that's the way they see it. And it's not something, and that's not a point I'm going to argue with, right? Because it's not an unreasonable fear. Now, as a guy, you're like, oh, but don't be afraid of me. Like, but
no, fuck that. I chose the bear, dude. I choose the bear every time. I choose the bear every fucking time. I'll tell you why. Because a week before after that happened, it was in the news where like some guy was out camping in the Pacific Northwest. A stranger came up and like sat down at his campfire, shared a beer with him, and killed him.
Yeah, well,
like it is. If I'm alone in the woods and another human is there, that is the most deadly fucking animal in the woods besides me. And I do want, like, I don't know you, man. You can, if you need help, I'll give it to you. But you need to leave and stay away. Like it, like
but that is a dude response, isn't it? Like, oh, hey, Randa just showed up. I'm gonna give him a beer. Like versus, oh my God, you're going to kill me. Get the fuck.
It is not my
here.
response. It is my, do you need help? Okay, you don't go away because this is my camping spot. We're like, is this your spot? I can move. But like, this is like going back even to like when I was in the Boy Scouts. If you meet a random stranger in the woods, be wary as fuck because they might kill you. It's one of those things where if you need help, great. If not, this is my spot. You can go find your own spot. Thank you. But like a bear, I know how to deal with a bear. There's not a lot of great ways, but you can. But like with a human, no, humans are unpredictable, aggressive, crazy things. Nature is far easier to deal with.
Yeah. Well, if you choose the bear to be with, or in the woods, it's like, all I know is if I ever have to fight a bear, a bear is going to kill me. But like, if I have to die to
fight the bear, man.
I don't want to fight the bear, but if I did,
you don't fight the bear. You just leave.
Yeah. Well, if I had to fight the bear, will
probably just fuck with your stuff.
If I had to fight the bear and I have to die to a bear, like if it's a black bear, you're going to get judged a little bit because a lot of guys.
Black bears will probably run away.
Well, let's say it doesn't, right? I just don't here. I don't want to die to a black bear, right? Because like that's not very Legends of the Fall. Yeah, that's not very Legends of the Fall because a lot of dudes have thought about fighting a black bear. Now, if it's a brown bear or Kodiak, I'm like, all right, yeah, I get it. It was a good death, right? I think was how they phrased it. And the point is what I was trying to get at is that women have those reasonable concerns, right? And so if I'm really mad, like, says if I slam it may have nothing to do with it. I may be mad at some other guys trying to fuck me over at work or something like that. In one of those, or just something like goes wrong and I just can't fucking handle it, right? In that moment, like, bam, like fist down on the counter or something, or yell and all that. But it's a reminder of their fears, right? Like the violence that is essentially in a man and a man's like strength too, right? Because there's a massive strength differential. And I've known some very strong women and ones that, there's ones that I'm sure could beat me in arm wrestling, but not many, right? And even then,
my wife throws a hell of a punch.
But but one of us could throw even more of that is the point.
Yeah, right. And just there's a mass difference there. Yeah. Like the basic math works out. It's like, I was just saying, like, she's not a power lifter or anything, but she grew up with boys, so she knows how to punch very well. But yeah, I get what you're saying. No, it's something I hadn't considered. That's like a reminder of, hey, this guy can be dangerous. As much as you feel safe around him, he can be remarkably dangerous too.
Yeah.
And I almost ripped our dishwasher out of the wall because I couldn't. Something's off kilter about it, and so the top rack doesn't stay in all the time. You have to like put it in just right, otherwise it'll slide out, and it annoys the shit out of me. And like I was just like, I'm going to beat this thing until it stays in. And she came running out of the back of the house. She's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" It's like, "I'm mad at the dishwasher." She's like, "Do you want to buy another one today?" It's like, "No, we don't have money for that right now." She's like, "Good, then fucking stop."
I'm just gonna kick its fucking ass until it knows, like, where it needs to be. Like, I'm gonna beat this
aggressively, physically bully this inanimate object that has no consciousness.
But it's a reminder that it's a reminder that at a primal level, like, we think that way sometimes. It's like violence is not always the solution, but it is a solution. And, maybe you'd make the dishwasher worse, but maybe it would be back in its position.
It's weird how that comes out through like various aspects of culture, because the Fonz would always hit the jukebox to make it work.
Yeah. And
back in the 90s kids, back in the day before flat screen TVs, TVs were based on vacuum tubes, and the tube would get out of alignment with the part of the TV that makes the magic happen. I'm not a fucking engineer. I don't know how a TV works. What I do know is that beat on the top of the TV, it jiggles things around the side of the TV. Boom, it works again.
And that was always like Dad's job, or the guy. It's like,
or once I got older,
smack it. Yeah.
So go beat on the TV and it'll work.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so that's the thing. So we see this as a solution. We just don't see it the same way. But, when you realize how much more, like, we may not like being around somebody that's really mad or flipping out, right? But if it triggers like a fear response in somebody else, the magnitude that you talk about, the magnitude of the scale of something earlier, is far different, right? And so, that's something that I know is just, it's not acceptable. And I don't want to make people afraid, right? Because,
Yeah.
you know, what I want to be most is, you know, who I like to think I am at my core, you know, thoughtful, receptive, loving, good partner, good coach, good friend. But I was upset the other day because I was yelling at this like automated robot when I was calling the sports doctor clinic. And then a woman answered and I was like, I don't know if you're part of it. And I was like, oh, hello. And she was kind of laughing. And I was like, I'm sorry. I hate
always
the
make
robots.
sure, like, I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at the stupid clanker that I
Yeah.
have to talk to.
Watch your language, Jack. But I'm not as mad at the robot. But then my wife made a comment of like, oh, so yeah, then she did hear a bit of like real Erik. And I was like, and that really got me because I'm like, that's not real Erik. Like, real Erik is like a nice fucking guy, you know, like sensitive.
I'm a people person. I deal with the customers.
Yeah, exactly. And but then I was like, oh, but honestly, a lot of time we've been together, like I'm extremely stressed out with a lot of life things, and I have been like more angry. And maybe that if people that you care about see that as more of your personality than how you see yourself, again, it's judging ourselves by intentions and judging others by actions, like then that you could argue really is you, at least, you know, to the world. You get into the philosophy of that. But so what I've been doing to work on to try and improve that is like, you know, at a base level, like step one, you know, because I'd like to be able to just not react like that. But, you know, I realize I really have to go back to the ground because I think the clinical term for this is alexithymia, but like could not get in touch with my emotions. Right? Like wouldn't know what I was actually feeling besides just like mad or bad, right?
Yeah.
And so, how do I even start working on processing these feelings without being like aware of what's actually going on, right? You know, am I afraid? Am I sad? Like, am I just really anxious? It's like I have to identify that first, right? But in a non-judgmental way. So let's identify, let's analyze, and go from there. And so I've been doing a lot of kind of awareness practice. And the thing is, you really need to do this. Like my coach, therapist, guru, we're going to put him, we talk about him later, but the stress, like, don't always do this only when you're mad, right? Like you really have to do this in other times so you don't identify it with negative situations. But is really kind of doing some of that quick breath work, right? Like you're going to go into meditation and there's certain types of breaths that work better for some people. Me, I like to even exhale through my nose because I can kind of feel, you know, the cycle with it there, or do like in and then suck in a bit more, go out. But then close your eyes, focus on just what you're aware of in that moment. So right now, kind of go through one at a time. Like I hear the feedback in my headset. You know, how can I sense the temperature in the room, how my skin's reacting to that, how my feet are grounded, and kind of process these. And then when you are just totally in that moment, you're open, you're aware, is then it's like, let's take this internally, right? And then sometimes first it's focusing on the physical, like I feel like, where do I feel this, right? Like it's in my gut or it's in my chest. And, you know, a lot of times particular emotions will manifest in certain areas for us. And so that helps, like over time, identify them even faster. And sometimes even this sounds a little woo, but talk to them a bit, right? Like converse.
I talk to myself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, talk to the actual like feelings inside of you.
Yeah.
Right.
When I rode a motorcycle every day, when I lived in Florida, so it was my daily driver, inside of a helmet, listening to the road and the bike all the time, I would like, eventually my mind would get bored and start to wander around and like, why was I mad about that thing today? Why did I get angry? It just continually, I think I was thinking about this earlier today. I don't know when exactly I started wanting to know why I felt the way I feel about things, like basically wanting to know why I was mad or why I was happy. But I think a lot of it started when I was on the bike every day for a couple of years when I lived in Florida, and because I had nothing else to think about. Um, so I would, just inspect myself basically while I'm driving and talk to myself about that feeling. Why am I upset about this? Why am I happy about that? What about that made me happy or sad? What triggered that? How can I, things like that.
Yeah, and once you've become aware of them and are more easy to like identify how you're actually feeling. Now, sometimes in the moment, I mean, you can choose, like you always have choice, as I've been told. And sometimes though, in life, like sometimes that choice ultimately is only how you choose to respond, right? But there is still
Yeah,
a choice. And sometimes in life, you have to get mad. Like there's times in
sure.
business, somebody's trying to fuck you over, stuff like that, or someone's trying to physically harm you, right? Somewhere like you have to do that, but you choose to wear that particular mask or that face, right?
Yeah.
And so getting into the practice of being able to at least know what I'm feeling and then, can deal with that later, but then also understanding the things that help kind of bring me back. Like you mentioned driving. So driving's mine too. That's my excuse for always having like a fast car is because my Zen is like going out, you know, acceleration in, hooning a bit, but have the music up so I can listen to whatever I want to listen to. I, think
It's
about,
one of the things I miss about Indiana.
yeah.
Like might be the only thing that I miss about Indiana.
Well, Carmel got all the roundabouts, so it's fun to like,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
fly around those. But and then if I need to have a masculine cry, like I will. I'm still not okay doing it in front of other people, but like,
sure.
maybe I'll get a little teary to certain songs. Go through that. Or I've also found is really going outside and doing that kind of awareness and meditation practice, but standing and having my shoes off. Like I hadn't done this until recently, but I forgot like how calming um it can be to just stand in the grass, like with your shoes like barefoot, feel the earth. And also just think about the fact that, it's physics, right? So you're pushing down on the earth, but it's pushing back on you. So you're being, and again, this is sounding woo, but it's helped me is like being supported. Or another
It does sound
particular
nice.
trick, try this sometime, is imagine, so you get in the moment, kind of do your quick awareness, like if you're getting really worked up, something that does calm me, or I'll do it before a meeting I'm stressed out about, or conversation I'm worried about, is like, or even just walking around, but don't always do it when you're upset. Like I said earlier, do it to just in daily practice, is imagine that it's kind of almost like the force, right? Like a 365-degree field around you. A 360, God, sorry. I'm good at statistics, not geometry, but 360. And you can even make that like a sphere around you too, not just, behind your back. But when you're walking or you're sitting, have that be your sensory field. And, like right now, I can sense where the wall is behind me, right? Or the ceiling is above, like I feel a certain space. And increasing your sensory awareness has, at least for me, a very grounding, calming effect. And again, this is something I'm happy to talk to people more about. There's plenty of other exercises stuff you can do. I have found though that my happy place is my senses. So I'm a certified sommelier, right? Like I smell and taste and feel. And so my calming and my grounding and my happy place is having increasing my sensory awareness and experiencing sensations that um, I like, or hell, even just being aware of them. Like this has helped in rugby, right? When last match I was in, it broke my finger. Yes, it's a masculine thing. Like it hurt, but it's also a chance for bravado, right? Like throw me some tape. I broke my finger. But like what I found is it's very good to quickly get yourself aware and back in the moment that you're in and get your heart rate down if something's hurting, because you can be like, oh, I am like aware of this pain, but it also takes away the negative side of it too, right? Because it's serving a purpose for you in the moment. So I know kind of rattled
Did
on
it help
there.
you not think about the shot you were getting ready to get?
Oh yeah, I get slapped and then
Another major pain callback.
Took me a second, but I was like, yeah, doctors don't do that anymore, do they? But no, that's my spiel.
No, it's one thing I was thinking about when you were talking about that is, especially with the men are allowed to be angry or they're fine. So like, one's in the Boy Scouts.
But men said that about men, not women saying that about men. Yes.
Oh yeah. So like, when I was in the Boy Scouts, typically for a certain generation, not necessarily ours, but like, one of the Indiana Jones movies starts off with him being in the Boy Scouts and like trying to save an artifact. So like, that is at least at some point in time like an artifact of like, oh, this is what the manly men do. It was always like, no, we were always like laughing, having a good time, not like, it's not angry or fine. It's perfectly fine to be sad. Actually, Boy Scouts were a weird experience for me. It's where I learned, that I thoroughly enjoy the Ramones, the Velvet Underground, the Clash, lots of like the foundations of punk music. It's also where I learned to play Dungeons and Dragons. And all the people I know that were also Eagle Scouts as well as me, we all are some degree of leftist. So it's like, maybe I didn't have the most typical Boy Scout experience. Also, I wasn't there because I wanted to do manly shit. I was there because my dad made me, and I got to hang out with other kids my age. Other like, I didn't care if they were boys or not. I lived on a farm. There were no other people. I was like, oh, humans I get to be around. But also, like, then later in the Marines, like, to outsiders, we would often be fairly like, there's an element of kayfabe there where you're like, have a stern mask, but among ourselves, no, fuck that. It was always like, these are people that I could cry in front of, laugh in front of, have the entire breadth of human emotion, because we're all Marines. So like and within the Marine Corps, there is a pecking order and a small hierarchy, but at the end of the day, you're all Marines. And so this like hyper masculine environment is also one of, from, outsiders, no, fuck you. We don't say anything to you. But among ourselves, it was very like, no, you're a human, man. You're allowed to be sad about things. Like, and so it's very interesting to get that point of view, because in the most masculine places in American culture, at least in my experience of them, it was not you can't do this because you're a man. It's in some cases like, this isn't the time for it, but you need to have your feelings at some point in time. But yeah, it was just,
that's because there's
interesting
a bond,
to hear your perspective. I'm glad you shared it.
Yeah, well, and it's because there's a bond. I'm talking a lot of times like in business, yeah, and that's like in rugby. Like, I'll be completely honest with you, I would be more open to, if I had to choose, I would rather cry in front of some of my close rugby friends than in front of my wife. Now, I know that sounds bad, and I know that's something I need to process, but that's fair, but in broader society, right? Like, or again, in business, and the environments I've been in business, is like, the showing of weakness that can be used against you eventually, or there's not trust with certain people, right? So at least
that's why I have no desire to be in charge of anything, because I cannot stand that bullshit. That's why I'm like, every time I talk to you about your work afterwards, I'm talking to Sam, like, Erik's life sounds like a nightmare. I don't know how he deals with that nonsense, because it's like it's like, we have real problems to solve. Why are we inventing all these other ones? Quit being such a fucking drama queen and do your goddamn job. I don't have that problem with engineering teams. Like, nah, we just do our work.
But that's what it's like, you're showing, and that's what I was saying. Even in very industries that are majority female, you still get these, and there are women that are like this too, executive types, that like, at a certain level, the old ways are still there. Like,
it's like that in automotive a lot. Automotive industry is really like that, and I would get a lot of conflicts with leadership because of that. It was like, at a certain point, it's like, you can't do anything that's bigger dicked than I did, because I've helped destroy whole countries and you sell cars. So we can keep having this contest if you want, but I've done other shit and you haven't.
Since they don't have the security, right? Or it's like doing something hardcore like that, you get like a certain respect from, you were a Marine, right? Like, and then, or I mentioned being a rugby player, and there is like respect with that. But like, for people that don't have that, a lot of times, let's say a lot of these small to mid-sized business owners, right, or executives there, or executives, the large ones, their ego's entirely tied to like their company and everything. And so, you know, any challenge to that they take personally, and you just got to be a certain way. Is that healthy? No. But I think then that's a conversation to follow up on later, is when you can build that bond and that trust between men, you are more open. And I think that's, you know, like a lot of Gen Z men that are going to, you know, more, say, hardcore or traditional religions, you know, like that, again, conversation for later, like Eastern Orthodox and stuff like that. They're seeking out, you know, a tough environment where they're around other men. You know, are they looking in the best places? Like, not necessarily, but there is, I think they are on to a certain truth, or they go down the wrong hole of the internet, but there is a bond, right? Maybe believe terrible stuff.
And that's just like a human thing, man. Like, we want to be where we fit in and with our group and our peers.
Yeah, but
like,
taking it,
that's not something that is exclusive to men, but I think the way it expresses is different with women and with men. It's like the whole thing where, like, they say that if you tell a man to go to therapy, it's not nearly as effective as telling him to go to the shed and fix an engine with his buddy, and maybe they'll talk and maybe they won't, but they'll have done something productive together, which I don't relate to at all, but I understand that it does apply to some people. So
where's joint suffering too, maybe, right? Like, you know, bonded by, you know, a certain, like a trial by fire. You know, I was still weird using like military expressions around somebody that's actually, you know, been in a war. But
listen,
but they seek it. There's a level of trust.
Rockets shot at me and I drew dicks on so many things. And that was my military experience. Having rockets shot at me by people I can't see, and drawing penises on literally everything.
Well, I mean, some of our earliest finds
for college.
Was penis graffiti. Like, this is what you do.
It is a time-honored tradition of Western men to draw penises on things, because they've found drawings of dicks on like Roman
that's
buildings.
what I'm talking about. Yeah.
So it's like, no, I'm not defacing anything. I am creating art that will last for thousands of years.
Maybe that sets us up for, you know, another episode where we discuss. It seems it's almost like I'm saying, like, you know, I'm only comfortable crying in front of somebody who I've participated in violent and homoerotic behavior with. Like, we can dig. Maybe Freud is wrong about a lot, but maybe there's something in there with with this. Why don't you give us the recap and then lead into you know, what we have to do next time, because we did not get to it this time.
Sure. So to recap, you know, we have very different experiences between you and I, very different points of view on, you know, what annoys us about how we express masculinity, and there's a lot of different ways to deal with that. And the biggest thing, I think, though, is that where a commonality between both of them is understanding that whatever is happening right then and there is better to take a moment to assess both yourself and what's going on around you, and to take time to think through your reaction to whatever is happening. You know, for you, it's to help not just express that through anger. And for me, it's to understand that, like, you know, there are other ways to solve this problem. But the base of it is that it is a thing that you come to through, not through just gut reaction, but through actually engaging your brain and thinking about what's going on, instead of letting any emotion, or not to say that emotions are bad, but making an emotionally driven decision. And sometimes that's a good thing. But when you are when you allow that to overcome your rationality instead of using it in concert, it can be a very bad thing.
You're choosing what emotion is driving the bus, right? But the only thing I'd add, like, to the awareness is, you know, said engaging your brain, but also engaging your empathy. And it's something that, you know, also requires work, but being aware of, like I said, when I became more aware of how my behavior is affecting others, or how that would be interpreted and how it makes them feel, you know, that really kind of opened up. There's even shame in it too, right? Like, because I'm like, wow, you know, shame from the behavior and the effect it had, but also the fact that I just didn't fucking think of that, like, before.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We also have similar, and in some way similar, in some way different, but also like generally along the same lines, considerations of, how anger and masculinity can be perceived by other people, and how that can be very good or very bad. And, just be mindful of that, and to make sure that you're showing the world the person that you want them to see. I think it was Kurt Vonnegut who said, we, in a similar vein, that we are what we pretend to be, so we must pretend to be good things, something like that. I do not read nearly as many of his books as I should, but yeah, it's
another Hoosier though. Yes,
yeah, I love that big mural of him in downtown Indy. But so next time on Annoyed Masculinity, we're going to talk about what the struggles of young men looked like to us. How we agree with the perceived struggle or problem, how we disagree, what we think that like men as a collective can do, and what individuals can do to help.
So we'll go on from there. Yes, that's if we do anything, it's
and we will probably ramble and talk about random other things as we are wont to do. But yeah, so thanks, Erik. Always appreciate talking to you. Always appreciate your time. Yeah. All right. Thanks, man.
Hey,
Take it easy.
Love you, brother.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Annoyed Masculinity. This has been an Annoyed Media production. Thoughts and ideas expressed during this episode should not be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. We are not therapists. We are just two guys bullshitting on the internet. Our opinions do not reflect the official positions or ideas of our employers or business partners. You can find more of our work on Substack, Instagram, and Blue Sky under @AnnoyedMasculinity. We hope you enjoyed the show, and remember to be awesome to one another.